Welcome to Purple Easel Spotlight, where we put the spotlight on artists and creatives. My name's Latoya.
And I'm Megan.
And we're both art instructors here at Purple Easel, California's largest paint sip studio.
Toya, I am so excited for today's artist.
Why is that?
Because it brings me back all the feels from my childhood.
Good. I'm super excited about this episode because you'll see.
Oh, why? Well, let me tell you how this came about. So I was at a bookstore. And I was looking through some mythology books, and I actually saw one of some pressed fairies. And it was really cute because, like, the fairies are all like, they're just in the book as if they actually got pressed. And I thought that was super funny. I was like, man, this really reminds me of Brian Froud's artwork. And I kind of look at it, and it's Lady Covington or something like that. And I'm like, oh, it must not be him. That's weird. And then so fast forward to the next day, and I'm in a different bookstore. And I see another book, which we're going to be doing that artist next. And I'm like, man, this work really makes me think of Brian Froud. And I'm like, maybe I should look into doing Brian Froud. And so as I'm researching, I realized that first book, it's totally him.
Oh.
And so no wonder the artwork looked like his. But for those of you who don't know, Brian Froud was super popular at one point, and I think he bears discussion again. He could be found at like Hot Topic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can like randomly find notebooks or something with his artwork on it. And I think that's one of my first like exposures outside of what he's really known for. We're getting into that.
So I know Brian mostly for obviously working with Jim Henson. He did a lot of concept art for The Dark Crystal and The Labyrinth. And that's what I really known his work for. And I automatically love it. I love anything fairy, whimsical, Celtic, magical, like
all the things.
All the things.
Yeah, it's in my wheelhouse for sure.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of his artwork.
So this piece is just so whimsical, and it makes me happy. I don't even know what's going on with this little dude, but he's adorable.
Adorable. I love the colors. I like the darks, blues, the grays, and then that pop of yellow.
Yes.
Makes it very just like bright and happy, like, oh, hello.
Yeah, it does. And he's kind of a weird creature. And so like having that little bit of warmth in there really like makes him accessible.
Yes. I think that's a lot of Brian's work too, is these kind of off-looking creatures, but they're so cute and adorable. But there's a kind of like darkness to it. You know, it's not like Lisa Frank, where it's all just super duper bright. You know, like whimsical,
happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, it's kind of like this dark, innocent, creepy, but
like realism. Yeah. But for things that don't exist.
Yes.
Or do they?
I believe in theories.
I'm not going to discard that.
We can't. We don't know if they're real or not.
We don't, and I sure like to think they are.
I like to think they are too.
So I found this image of the three-headed man, and I really like it because it's less colorful than a lot of his other work, but it shows just the amount of detail. And it's crazy because at first it just looks like some weird tree dude, but if you look closely, there are three heads there.
I did not know until midway of you talking about it just right now. I was like, where's the three-headed? Where? I kept looking at him like, oh.
See, the title makes the difference.
Yeah, because I don't think I would have saw in the ears at all.
Yeah, I super love this one. And it just really, there's so much emotion just behind the line. And it's so detailed, and it just gives a vibe.
It's very much a vibe. I like the eye too because again that pop of color is just
that
like
pop of color, and also like they say the eyes are the window to your soul, and this one's like all clouded over. So
yeah,
what does that mean? Like, what's with this dude? Has he lived a life? Is he like over it? Is he transporting us to a whole nother realm? I don't know what's happening.
And what happened to the other eye?
That's a great question. So here is where things might start getting a little bit more familiar. I like to think of Brian as the artist you know but didn't know you knew.
Yeah.
Especially if you're our age. Even if you've seen it, you just didn't realize what's behind it. So this is a concept illustration of Toby and the Goblins from The Labyrinth. And then we also have an image of that actual scene in the movie, which is awesome. And the way they brought these creatures to life is art in of itself. Like, whoever worked on all these puppets, like, man, they really brought the vision. It's such a perfect partnership, Brian Froud and Jim Henson.
Oh, yes. I, of course, fan right? Even like with the newest Dark Crystal, I was like, yes, great. I don't know if it got like a second season or not, but I was like kind of disappointed.
It did. I didn't finish watching it. I started to with my family, and then it was like, well, we all have to be together, and so we haven't gotten to finish it. But I have some fun facts.
Oh, do you?
So Toby, as seen here with all the goblins, is actually Brian and Wendy Froud's son.
Oh.
And Brian and Wendy met on set of The Dark Crystal.
I didn't know.
Yes, and Wendy was a puppeteer, and yeah, it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to the reboot, Age of Resistance. Guess who worked on that movie?
Oh,
Toby. All three of them got to work together. Say what you want about nepotism, but as a parent, like, I think that's like the ultimate moment, getting to bring your kid into your work and do a project together. Like, that's the dream.
This podcast
circle
so much more like I was already so about this, but just learning that little tidbit is so adorable, and just
I love the tidbits. It does. It really makes it for me.
Yes.
I'm glad you appreciate it.
Yes. Amazing artist. So I didn't know this, but he was also a designer for a Japanese, it was like an illustration, like cartoon type movie called Little Nemo, Slumberland, or like Slumber Adventures or whatever. I watched that religiously as a kid 1,000,000 times. I should go back and watch it again, but I did not know that he had hands in that project.
Me either.
I had no idea, but I love.
I can totally picture Nemo on his little bed, like flying around or whatever. Yeah, that's.
And I like the dark themes. I just, as a kid, like, it's cool being a kid and getting into kid stuff, and but I liked the kind of undertones and the dark themes that some of like his work had. And Little Nemo was very. I wouldn't say it's very Disney. It's.
Just because it's animated doesn't make it Disney, which kind of has become synonymous at this point, which is not necessarily the case.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It was just very kind of, I wouldn't say like adult themed, but there was just, it wasn't all fun and games.
Right.
Essentially, in that film.
And I feel like he's creating this world, right? All these creatures and beings and stuff. And if you look at the lore, which he was super into, he loved Arthurian legend, he loved a lot of different like Celtic myths, everything. The fairy world is pretty dark.
Oh yeah,
like fairies.
You don't mess with the fae.
And you know they get up to some hijinks. So I think it's a perfect representation.
Oh yeah.
And I think as humans, it helps us gravitate because, you know, we kind of shy away from that parts of ourselves, but it's there, it exists, and it kind of puts it right in your face. So I think it's fun.
Yeah, I think we definitely romanticize fairies, but when they really are mischievous and can be a little not so good sometimes.
Political intrigue. I read a lot. I read a lot of fantasy books. I read like 50 some books last year. I'm not going to get that this year, but I know what I'm talking about. The fairies.
I don't know the fairies. You don't want to mess with the fairies. You don't want to conjure the fairies. You just don't mess with the fairies. And also, just one more thing I wanted to talk about is, I don't know if you ever watched The Brave Little Toaster.
Yeah.
Dark themes.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it, and you're like, dang. There was all sorts of darkness. It's a cartoon for kids, but it's a little dark, and I kind of like those sorts of themes. Anyways.
And to segue, I think you'll really appreciate our next artist too. All right, so I want to talk about Lauren Marx. I found this book, Sacred Decay, at the bookstore, and the moment I picked it up, I was like, ooh, I think Toya will really like this. It's kind of macabre.
Okay.
Which you've mentioned that your own work kind of deals with those last moments in life and like the peacefulness. And I think this really epitomizes that because it's a little bit grotesque, but there's a softness to it.
Yeah, very.
And it has a bit of whimsy. And so I thought, like,
This is.
all right. So as I was looking into Lauren, I realized she has quite a good following. But I didn't want to preclude her. I felt like the whole book thing was pretty serendipitous, so I wanted to make sure we talked about her today.
Ooh, this one is pretty. I like this. Is this why you didn't want to show me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm fine looking at these images, so I'm just kind of taking it in. I do see it is. I like it because it's very pretty on the outside, but there's kind of like more somber.
It's really about the
piece?
circle of life.
Yeah.
Life should be celebrated and it's beautiful and great, but death is part of that.
Yes.
It's really kind of...
And I'm all about that
on
life.
that.
Yes. I am very
It
much about
puts
that.
things into balance. And I just included this one because it's three-headed, just like that. I'm like, what is happening? It's 3 heads.
It do got a pop of a color.
Yeah. And I know, like, there's a lot of symbolism in her work, and I couldn't even venture to say what most of it represents. But I know she kind of takes influences from not only like scientific illustrations, which you can kind of see, but also a lot of religious symbolism and some mythology and all kinds of depth that I'm probably not even getting, but I'll look at it and take it for what it is. And I think there's something to be said for that too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can see this in kind of like an oracle deck kind of way if you're into that sort of thing, because you can see you can use like numbers. Okay, so there's like 3 moths in the back that can symbolize something. The moths themselves, there's 3 heads. We got 3 moths. We have 3 animals, and me looking into it already. That sort of thing. So yeah, I could see this easily. That type of flower, or like the grass that's being used, the type of birds that are there. I do see more moths. So those moths are a little bit hidden as well. So that can read in. It's like 3 and then the grasses, right?
Or maybe it's 4.
Can't quite tell.
4, 5,
1, 2, 3. There's 2 on the right and then 3 on the left, I think.
4. Yeah, 5. I think so.
So that can be symbolic of something that they're keeping inside, something that they're keeping on the outside. So yeah, I can definitely see this and their work as very symbolic in a way.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I really love this piece, and it kind of gives me like Southwestern art vibes. Probably mostly because of the subject matter.
Yeah.
But it's life and death in one snapshot. It's so beautiful. All the like mushrooms growing.
Yeah. You can literally see the life and death within this image.
Yes.
The bees, the butterfly, the transformation, the new growth on top of the death and dying and the decay.
And it's so subtle.
Yeah.
And like clean.
Yes.
Her art style is very clean.
I've noticed.
And this particular one really kind of takes me back to Brian Froud's work because it's so whimsical, even though
it's a little darker.
It's a little darker, yeah. And then I wanted to include this one because this is a work in progress.
Oh.
And it just shows how much detail is in there and how much time it must take. I can't even imagine.
The line work is beautiful.
Yes.
And almost kind of, I can see this as a tattoo somehow.
Yeah, it'll be a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
But it's, yeah, the line work on its own. But then once you start to get that dimension in there, and as it is right now, even as an unfinished piece, you pretty much have 2 colors.
Yeah.
And I think that's really working for me. I'm going to be interested to see if a lot of other colors pop up or if the palette is kind of kept.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. This is just gorgeous.
Yeah. Things to think about.
Yes.
Art that makes you think.
Yes, I like that.
Ooh, here for it. So today, Toya, I'm taking our discussion right from Lauren. So this was posted on her Instagram and it got all the comments. So I want to hear your hot take.
Okay.
So she says, you're still an artist. You're still an artist if you haven't made art in a while. You're still an artist if you didn't go to art school. You're still an artist if you have a day job. You're still an artist if you don't have a large social media following. You're still an artist if your life doesn't revolve around art. You're still an artist.
That was very encouraging.
Right. That's how I take it.
I was like, oh, okay.
I'll still an artist.
I'm like, I don't feel so bad now because I don't have like a lot of followers, or sometimes I don't. Like you yourself, you haven't done it like in a long time until the Inktober kind of got you back into it.
Exactly.
And then there's periods to where you just don't create a whole lot.
There is. I mean, everybody has ebbs and flow in their creativity and their motivation. I mean, every famous artist ever has had dry spells. About Van Gogh, he just couldn't function, let alone art, for long periods of time. So it was interesting to me to see a lot of the comments getting mad at this.
Why?
Because they feel it's undercutting the work of artists who are proactively pouring themselves into something all day, every day.
That's not nice. That's not nice. What? No. I mean, okay, cool for you.
Right. So I'm glad we're on the same page on this. It's an interesting take on it. And I do feel that way a lot of times when people say things like, oh, you're so talented. Yes, it's a compliment, but it does kind of undercut the amount of work it takes to become talented. It's not just something that happens. You have to practice and you have to keep doing it all the time to continuously improve. But I think that mindset of an artist is there whether you're producing or not.
You know, I feel like people can take this. It's weird that people would get offended by this, but imagine if you're someone like myself who, my mom had a stroke 3 years ago. And so I paint here, but I have yet to make any personal art since then because I don't have the time. And yes, I'm creating here. I'm like, dang, am I really an artist though? I got into my fan spinning, which is great, and other things, but I haven't painted for myself in years. So imagine someone like myself or someone who's in another situation to where something has happened and they got a kid or something bad happened to them or something not even bad happens and they just lost the motivation. Life happens. And they see this, like, how are you going to hate on that? How are you going to like, oh, that undermines me. Okay, well, yeah, good for you. Like you're doing it. That's nice and all.
But not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah.
Especially in today's society. Like we have so many hats that we have to wear.
Yes.
And it's a lot of pressure. And just to exist in a like financial aspect, you have to create way more output to get the same payoff than what used to be the case. We can't survive on one income for most people anymore. So
exactly.
I think being an artist is a very internal thing. And you think of people like Daniel Day-Lewis. And he goes long periods of time between projects. Is he not an actor still? And between those
amazing.
I mean, I don't think anybody would ever accuse him of, oh, you're not an actor because you haven't been in anything in the last year, 5 years, whatever. Like, no, he's still that. He has produced in that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, he's top tier.
That's what he is.
And also, sometimes it takes a lot of work to put your work out there on Instagram. You have to do this, and you got to make the videos, and you got to edit this, and it's sometimes a lot of extra work but when you're painting and doing the work or whatever it is that you're creating, sometimes you forget. I've talked about this with my fiance. He's like, oh, I have to record, and I have to do this, and you know, when I'm in the moment, when I'm creating, I just want to do it.
Think about all that stuff,
exactly.
Right? The business side of it. And I think that's kind of a whole other topic, but it's really harder for artists because they don't have people to advocate for them the same way. You have to advocate for yourself. And the space is more flooded at this point. And so to get followers or anything like that takes a lot more work. And I don't think that's the end all be all. And it shouldn't be. I think just being there, putting your stuff out there, that's a hard step for a lot of people. And it's a good first step, regardless of whether you're getting the feedback or not. Just, you have to trust your instinct.
So here on the Spotlight, we want to spotlight artists and creatives. That's kind of our thing.
Literally.
But the reason why we also do this is to encourage others, because we've been through it and you've been through it we need a community.
Absolutely.
And our struggles as being an artist, we don't talk about them. So I feel like sometimes we get in our own space and we get in our heads and we think things because we're not speaking them to others that can relate to us. So we very much want to encourage artists, creatives around the world to create often, but also to share your work, to be in a space of community so we can all just share our traumas together.
Trauma bonding.
Yes.
Love it.
From all of us at Purple Easel, thank you so much for tuning in.
Make sure to check the links below for our artists today, Brian Froud and Lauren Marx.
Join us at purpleeselplus.com to paint with the world's largest paint and sip studio online.
And if you're in Southern California, make sure to swing by the studio and hang out with us. In the meantime, create more and create often.
Bye.
Nice.